Well, hello and welcome to another The Pat Podcast. Yes, I could put the in front of it first because it just sounds more professional, doesn't it? I promised I would never do another podcast where I was a little bit tipsy, but guess what? It's been one of those days. So, we just got off a Christmas break and back to it. And I had a very interesting experience. Well, not an interesting experience, but I'm sure most people with families that they go home to visit for the holidays, for Christmas, for the holidays. Oh my God, there's such a discussion. Anyway, you run into run into situations you did when you were a kid. And for me, that's my relatives, my brothers, my parents, and their love of food. As you can tell, I love the food. Unfortunately, I probably need to take a break on that. So, basically, my brother was very proud of himself. He made turkey legs. And I'm talking about legitimate turkey legs. And the word is legitimate, not legit. I'm sorry. Kids, the word is legitimate. You have to use the full word. Anyway. And you go to McDonald's. You go to Disneyland. You'll get one of these things for maybe $14, and it's a big honking thing of turkey leg, and you're like, it's really good. Well, my brother, master barbecue chef, man, he made a ton of them. I was very excitingly impressed. Well, I was more impressed to where he got them from. Apparently, he got them from Sam's Club. It was great. Anyway, so I sit down. I have my coffee. I have my sides, and I have my turkey leg. And I'm about to dive into the turkey leg, right? But then my mother comes up to me, and she's like, "Oh no, you need to cut off the sides. You need to make sure that you peel it back because it's a little bit burnt. So the best way to do it is peel it." And she literally takes the knife out of my hand, and she starts trying to cut my turkey. And I have to stop her and be like, "Okay, mother, this is Christmas. I love you. But I'm 31 years old. Put the knife down." It's like I'm trying to walk her off a ledge. You stop. Like her. I mean, there is no malice in this. There's no ill intent in this. She's a mom. That's what moms do. But it's a bit weird to have your mother at 31 years old come up and be like, "Let me cut this up for you, son. I want to make sure this." Okay. You can stop there. Well, anyway, that was my very frustrating story of the week, and it's hard for me to get mad about that because it's mom, it's Christmas, it's fun. That's what happens. We're almost about New Year's, so why would I get mad, right? Frustrating. So I'm trying to think of the thing that I really wanted to talk about this week, because we're at a point where we're seeing a lot of new movies coming out. Star Wars came out, which I want to talk about. We saw the trailer for the new Avengers Infinity War that came out, which I'm really excited about. And, of course, I'm not a movie expert. If you expect a movie expert at this point, you should probably cut off now, go listen to James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd. The man's a genius. You should listen to what this guy says. He knows his movies. He's very humble about it, but he knows what he's talking about. Listen to that man. Also, John Graham. Good God. Listen to John Graham. He knows some crazy crap about filming. It's good stuff. Also known as John CJG. Anyway, recently we also just finished, before I get into my discussion about Star Wars and Avengers Infinity War, I would like to point out that we just posted our 9 a.m. Christmas special, our first Jackass Express Christmas special, called Cold. And it's a story about how Tip caught a cold. It's on our YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy it. I think you'll like it. I think it's the first animation we've done with all the members of the Jackass Express voicing their characters. Well, no, it's not the first one, I should say. We've done one before, but it was a long time ago. It was like 2015. We did a Halloween special where we all voiced our characters. But that's where we just barely met Jeff and Sax, and we kind of knew them. At this point, we knew each other, so we're already insulting each other to a very heavy degree as friends, as real friends do. So I encourage you to go watch it. It's on our Jackass Express channel, YouTube, facebook.com/Jackass Express, or just type in Jackass Express and look for our logo. It's all the same, and I think you'll enjoy it. So, Star Wars. If you're listening to this before you watch Star Wars, I suggest you don't listen to this. I mean, think about this. Is this really that important of a podcast? You want to hear a spoiler from this? I didn't think so. So, at this point, probably maybe turn it off, mute it, whatever. And then we'll talk about Star Wars later. If you want to listen to this podcast and what I have to say afterwards, then just skip ahead every bit, and I'll try to keep little pauses in there for you. My brother, Michael, he has the hardest time with this movie. The hardest time with this movie. He is a legitimate Star Wars fan. Again, I use the word legitimate. I feel like there's a tone set for the original Star Wars fans. And it's that here is a story about a person who started off as basically as a farm boy, and he became something more than that, and then he was able to move himself on to become something that was his destiny. He fulfilled the destiny that was pre-given to him before he even thought possible. And he inadvertently found out that the primary antagonist, Darth Vader, was his father. And that later in the last film, which mind you, they intended to be the last film that another co-star, another protagonist, Princess Leia, was his sister. So this movie became about a family endeavor. And to me, that means that there was this aberration in the Force, if you know Star Wars lore, that these three people, this family had such an influence in the Force that they caused all these sorts of problems, all these sorts of influences into the world. And then that's when people got hooked. And they believed that the entire Star Wars universe was simply about Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, the Skywalker lineage, which, I'm sorry to say, at least for the sake of, what's the word? Contrary, is not the case. In The Last Jedi, here comes the spoiler parts, Luke makes the case that the Force to Rey is not about him. It's not about her. It's about the universe. It's about everything. It's about everything that moves in it, everything that works around it. The fact that Darth Vader, the fact that Luke, the fact that Leia were so strong, had this amazing potential to be the greatest of the Jedis, is irrelevant if you consider the fact that Darth Vader and the Emperor killed off all the Jedis. So kind of like the movie One, the one with Jet Li. I'm sure I don't know if you've seen it, but it kind of follows that same premise where everybody else has been killed off. So now you have a limited amount of people that are capable of using the Force. So here you have these people, Luke, Leia, and Darth Vader, and the Emperor, and they've gotten the crux. They got the most of what's left of the Force. So now they're the ones that are the most powerful, right? Simply because there's nobody else there to spread it amongst her who has the potential to be able to utilize the Force in this capacity. At least that's my understanding of what I've seen so far. I know nothing about the extended universe. I'm sure there's a bunch of nerds out there like, no, you're a little bit wrong there, but that's irrelevant because it's just opinion. I'm going to start that with opinion. Not to be insulting to the nerds, you are my people. I love you. But understand that my opinion is based out of the idea that they've made Leia capable of using the Force. Someone who probably had the latent potential to use the Force, but what is, regardless, still Darth Vader's daughter. So it's not hard to imagine that she would also have the ability to do such a thing. And the reason why I'm going so nerdy into this particular discussion is because it plays into the rest of the movie that family was too powerful. I believe the current the current youth term is OP. They were too OP, or overpowered, for us older folk. And that made them unrelatable. And furthermore, they made them more relatable to the generation that preceded the current generation, which is more concerned about humor, which is more concerned about presenting themselves in a way that is favorable to other people, that has no need for pride. I like to say that that's the one saving grace of this current generation, is that they have no need to feel like they have to present themselves in such a way that they have to uplift themselves over somebody else. But what they are concerned about, and those of you who are within the same millennial generation, which I hold no remorse for whatsoever, because if technically, I was born in 1986, so technically I'm a millennial. And I have no problem with that. I think labels are useless. But I believe they're more concerned about appearing unique, different. They don't want to be seen as better or worse. They just want to be seen as different. They're tired of being like everybody else. Ironically, most of them follow this hipster culture. They wear the same style, sunglasses, glasses, whatever, shirts, whatever. I'm a little bit guilty of it myself. I'm not going to lie necessarily. But it's all for a purpose, isn't it? It's all in the endeavor to try to find a uniqueness that makes you stand out, makes you special. And not necessarily special to somebody else, but special to yourself, right? As long as you believe that you are different from everybody else, there's no need to have to prove it to anybody else. And that's the thing I love about this current generation. There doesn't seem to be that same concern for spotlight as was in my generation, the generations that preceded me. There's always that need to show that you're better than them, you know more than them, you have more knowledge than them, you have more ability than them. I can play Super Mario 64 better than you. To be honest with you, that one actually would depress me, because I stink at Super Mario 64, and I really wish I was better at it. Anyway, the point is that this Star Wars was made with a new generation in mind. And it's all about being different. It's all about leaving behind the things that made you like the people that came before you. And it's not that you don't like the things that came before you. You have a great reverence for them. But it doesn't fulfill the need for individuality that is currently present in this culture, where everybody desires to be different in their own way. I go so far as to say that success has taken a second seat to individuality, because success is usually coupled with a form of conformity, which I'm getting a little bit too philosophical, a little bit too what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit too wordsy here, I guess. Wordsy. That's the point I'm at now, because, like I said, I was tipsy when I started this podcast, right? But it fit a new generation that wanted to believe that this one particular group of people did not own exclusivity on the changers and doers and the workers and the front line of the new era, which was essentially summarized in the Skywalker lineage. They were born into this. Whereas most people aren't we don't want to believe that it's kind of like if you look at reality. If you're born into these great legacies, you have the potential to succeed beyond your wildest dreams. But is that success earned? No. It's just because you were born into that reality. You're born into that circumstance. The rest of us, we work. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a value in not having to rely on the people that came before you to be able to succeed, because if, in my honest opinion, you succeed and you didn't really do anything to earn it, then what good is that success? You've basically resigned yourself to say that I am only successful based off of what's happened before me, and the people who come after you, they're successful because you were born into it. So what really did you put into the world? And I think that's why a lot of people struggle, is because they look for their individuality, but they don't want to give up the entitled sense of progress that they have simply by being who they were when they were born. Well, there's nothing wrong with either way. I think everybody should live a life where they're happy, but most people, I think, will settle for just being rich and happy. And there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But you lose your individuality because you're just basically, the only way I'm going to sustain what it is that I've done is if I continue to do what the people that came before me have done. Right? I hope that didn't go over your head. I'm just trying to talk about Star Wars, right? That's what I'm supposed to be talking about. Anyway, So, Star Wars ended in a way that was most unfavorable to people. I feel like most people believe that a certain character should have acted a little bit differently than they were taught to believe. But I think what they're forgetting is that his values never really changed. In fact, they were probably amplified. And the person who was trying to show that amplification of his personality, Rian Johnson, he had a responsibility to show him in his current state, which was possibly a little bit, lost on the world that he had saved that has now fallen back into what he's done. How many people in the world suffer from anxiety to where they've made so much progress and they see a little bit of backsliding and they give up completely? It takes a real challenge to be able to make progress past the point where you slide back. Because everybody slides back. But if you have the potential, you do have the potential, everybody has the potential, despite falling back, to keep going forward. I think that's what defines you as a person. It's that point where you're succeeding and then you fall back, but you decide to keep going forward that makes you go forward. And I think that's what this movie was all about, is the ability to do that, to overcome where you were falling back and then be able to move forward. So, philosophy over. Last Jedi, I think, was a decent movie. As a original Star Wars fans, yes, there was a lot of heartbreaking moments. There really was, because it made you feel like the characters weren't true to who you originally knew, but you can understand why Rian Johnson did what he did. And I think it's important to watch it regardless of whether or not you're a Star Wars fan, because it's interesting how he introduces Star Wars to the new generation. And I believe he sets it up in such a way that the events of Star Wars The Last Jedi could be taken either way. It could either completely pull itself back from where it is, back to where Star Wars fans wants it, playing safe to the chest, having an Episode 9, which was basically a wonderful and beautiful retelling of A New Hope, but it was essentially A New Hope all over again, paralleling everything that happened in A New Hope, but in a more grandiose way. Or it could go off the rails too far, like the prequels did, like Attack of the Clones did, which is most popular for taking it too far, and again flying through the droid factory. We don't speak of that one, but I feel that right now they're gauging the reaction. I believe Disney is gauging the reaction to see what most people are going to conclude from watching The Last Jedi, and from there they're going to make a decision. And don't make any mistake here. Disney is very aware of the backlash that is occurring because of The Last Jedi. And is it because they care about your thoughts of the story? No. Is it because they're concerned that you're going to revolt and boycott it? No. Think about it. Then Episode 9 comes out. Is everybody going to watch it? Yeah. Because either they're going to watch it to see if it fixed itself or see if it's still terrible. So they're still going to make the money, so don't care. Why are they listening to you? Because in the grand scheme of things, in the grander Star Wars legacy, they want to see who's going to be watching the movies 2-3 movies from now. Not who's going to show up to watch Episode 9, because they're guaranteed everybody's going to show up for Episode 9. Whether you like it or not, you know you're going to go watch it. They're concerned about Episode 10, 11, and 12. And that's what that's what Disney's concerned about. You know? So, my suggestion to most people out there is that Episode 8 was an attempt to lateral to wherever they needed, given the unfortunate decease of Carrie Fisher, who I believe was integral to the part of Episode 9. They had to do a hard reset with Episode 8 to make it about nothing again. I almost believe that between Episode 8 and Episode 9, there's going to be a time skip to where it's been like 17 years later, and the weird little kid with a broom at the end is going to become something older. He's going to be older, and Rey is somehow going to become his mentor, and now it's the new generation of the Jedi and the Star Wars legacy. Not to exclude the fact that it's very possible that Kylo Ren, who's always wanted to be just like his hero Darth Vader, would also have children and somehow have a child who is somehow with the Force. Who knows? It makes sense, right? It doesn't matter. The only thing I will say about Star Wars Last Jedi that disappointed me is that Snoke was such an underutilized character. General Lux, or whatever the hell his name was a bit too cartoony for me. I hope to see him kind of like with an eye patch in the next movie, and a little bit more mature, kind of like he learned his lesson. Something's wrong with him being a little bit too immature. The comedy was a little bit too much. It was too much. It was borderline the prequels, and I didn't want to admit that to my brother, but it really was. And it's disappointing is not the word. It's just it makes it difficult to return to where you've come from. You've deviated so much from the source material, it's hard to come back. So, anyway, Star Wars over. Let's move on to The Force Awakens. But before I do, not The Force Awakens, great. Let's move on to Avengers Infinity War, right? The trailer, amazing. Everybody loved it. I loved it. Everybody thought it was great. But before I talked about that, I kind of want to talk about Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. Isn't it interesting, his career so far? I mean, think about it. I mean, he nailed it in 2008 with Jon Favreau in Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3. I mean, the man was just on fire. He was on Avengers. I mean, he had this. Even Stan Lee has said that when he was thinking of Tony Stark, he didn't realize he was thinking of Robert Downey Jr., but then when he saw Robert Downey Jr., he was great. And this is a little bit presumptuous for me to say. I've been a Robert Downey Jr. fan for a very long time. I watched Heart and Souls, which is probably going to make most people cringe at me saying that, but I did, and I enjoyed it, and my family will make fun of me for it to this day. I can still sing Walk Like a Man if I had to, but I'm not going to. But he obviously fell on some tough times, and he came out, and on the other side he became Iron Man, and more importantly Sherlock, in my opinion. But he evolved into something different. And that brings me to my point. Think about the destruction that he did to himself. Not intentionally, probably in the sake of trying to make himself, palatable to the rest of the world, make the rest of the world palatable to him. But he suffered a great deal of anxiety, problems, and frustrations in himself, and he thought he would find that at the end of a bottle or drugs or whatever, like most of us have. And yes, I'm not saying that most of us are immune to the occasional beverage once in a while. But why does anybody ever do anything in that regard? And I'm not an expert, so I don't claim to be, but I would assume the best reason is because they're trying to find an escape. So he escaped, but at what cost? He came back after he found the error of his ways, and now he succeeded. And my point is, regardless of how much a person has failed, regardless of how much you have made bad decisions, mistakes, unintentional mistakes, well-meaning mistakes, you can never really truly count yourself out. Because I think what ends up happening is that when you make a mistake, people tend to punish themselves for that mistake because they're trying to make themselves not make that mistake again. So they're trying to inadvertently teach themselves not to make that mistake again. It's weird because it's kind of like, instead of learning to eat less Oreos, you just stop buying the Oreos altogether. Which, in my opinion, is cruel. You have to buy the Oreos, right? In other words, you try to foolproof it instead of trying to teach yourself not to deal without. And you're trying to make yourself a better person simply by telling yourself you're not going to be a bad person anymore. And I don't think that's the answer. You're not going to lose weight by telling yourself I'm not going to eat bad anymore. You lose weight by saying I'm now going to eat better. I'm now going to do better. I'm now going to exercise. I'm now going to do good, productive things for me. Robert Downey Jr., no different. He decided to embrace a world that didn't include the things that destroyed him, and look at the success that he's had because of that. Over the last 8 years. It's insane. We're looking at him going into how many movies? Iron Man 1, 2, 3, Avengers 2, Captain America: Civil War. I mean, bloody Iron Man, no, Spider-Man: Homecoming. I mean, he's the what's the word I'm looking for? He's the face of the legacy that Marvel is going to leave behind, and he's making a ton of money. He has the ability to share his personal earned income with the other actors to make sure the movies are successful, and that's amazing. And look what he's done. He's inspired this culture of this superhero fan base, that rivals Star Wars. Ironically, it is very close to surpassing it, given the last Star Wars movie. And I feel that teaches a lesson in a lot of ways. What are we criticizing ourselves about that is limiting us from doing the things that we thought we were supposed to do? Earlier I said something about how I was jealous of people who could play Mario 64 better than me. And I think the reason I'm jealous of that is because most people learn from their mistakes, and then when you're playing that game, you feel like you don't learn from your mistakes. It's like, oh my god, I don't want to screw up with this game. Come on, make that flip. You got to get to that flip so you can get to the star. And you get mad at yourself, and like, oh, I can't do it. And then what ends up happening, you throw the controller, you don't want to do anything anymore. I'm not saying I threw a controller, allegedly. But that sort of thing happens. And you punish yourself, and you think there's something wrong with you. And no, there's nothing wrong with you, because it's a game of chance. It's a game of percentage, of likelihood that you're going to succeed. Yes, there are some people that have mastered it and are great at it. But, I mean, the amount of time that they put into it, they don't know anything else. So of course they're going to do it very well. It's like living and breathing. But most of the other people, they do different things in their lives. I'm not saying they're bad people. I love speedrunners. Please don't kill me. Cheezo5, you're my hero. Anyway. But you have to understand that most of the things that you want to do in life will come at a cost. They'll come at a frustration. They'll come at a consequence. But that's the wonderful thing about it. Because you know that when you're doing something that actually means something to you, it'll be frustrating and it'll bother you that you suck at it. It'll frustrate you that you suck at it at first. If you suck at it for like 5 years, then yeah, maybe you should think about it, But if you care enough to keep trying, despite the fact that you're not good at it at first, that should be a sign that you actually care about something, that you actually love it. And I don't know about you, but at my age, 31, too old to play Mario 64 anymore. It's very interesting to be able to find something that you actually care about. So, if you do it. As long as it's not hurting anybody else or yourself. If it's something you really care about but you've been failing at, keep trying at it. You don't know what could become of it. You don't know where you could evolve to. And not many people know this, but when you keep doing the same thing wrong over and over and over and over and over again, you're going to learn how to do it a little bit better. It's weird because now I'm going back into a Star Wars spoiler, which is essentially failure is the best teacher. So learn from your failures, do a little bit better every time, and you know what's going to end up happening? 99% of the time you're going to fail, that 1% time you're going to succeed. And that 1% time that you succeed, you're not going to give a flying crap about the 99% time that you failed. You're just going to care about the one time you succeeded. And you're not going to understand why it took you 99% time to fail for you to succeed the one time. And everybody's shooting for that one chance, that one opportunity to do it. But you don't achieve it if you don't do anything, if you don't keep trying to do that. Anyway, this goes far from an Avengers talk, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know where that went from. Anyway, Avengers Infinity War, amazing trailer. Loved it. Loved how Captain America is represented. I don't know if I care for the beard. I have a beard. I like his beard. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm a huge Captain America fan. I have a Captain America poster right there. It's not really a poster. It's a canvas, so I paid extra for it. But, what else? Black Panther seems to be awesome, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Looking forward to the continuation of the next Spider-Man's coming out. Looking forward to the next... I hear this Runaways is pretty good. Should I check that out? Maybe you guys should let me know if I should check that out. I would love to. There's a lot of the thing I love about the Marvel Universe is that they don't sacrifice a good story for visual effect. They always have a good story regardless of how visual they are. They're not a Batman versus Superman, which is eye candy and just fails to have a good story. Your mother's name is Martha. My mother's name is Martha. Let's be friends. And then Batman goes and kills everybody. I don't know. Anyway, my point being is there's a lot of success that can happen if you're willing to wait for it to happen. Patience is probably the most valuable trait in any form of success. Because like in the military, it's hurry up and wait. Hurry, 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 wait for the opportune moment. And it's just like that in success. Push, 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 wait. Push, 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 wait. And then before you know it, that 1% time, you probably will succeed. Anyway, hope I didn't sound too preachy. It's just some things that I was thinking about, mulling over. Thank you for listening to the Pat Podcast. Make sure you check out our blog spot at jackassexpress.blogspot.com, or, God willing, that the domain gets renewed, jackassexpress.com. Check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/jackassexpress, our Facebook page, facebook.com/jackassexpress. Just look us up. We all have the same logo. Twitter account is Jackass Express, at Jackass Express. And also check out at Celtic Horn. That's my personal Twitter. I'm more than happy to answer anybody's questions or just talk. If you guys want to have any conversations with me, ask me my opinion on things, tell me I have no idea what I'm talking about, get mad at me for giving Star Wars spoilers when you weren't fully adequately prepared to hear them, I'd love to hear that too, at Celtichorn, CELTICHORN, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about that there. Once again, thank you for listening to the Pat Podcast. I hope you have a wonderful time. If you haven't seen Star Wars, go watch it. If you haven't seen the Infinity War trailer, must see. It's on YouTube. There's no excuse not to see it. Have a wonderful, wonderful New Year's, Merry Christmas, and go watch the Jackass Express 9 a.m. Christmas special. Farewell.